our dishes and identity are fluid as fuck. And it's okay to overextend it.
Yep.
Right? And I think that's what we're doing here today.
Yep, for sure. Tu, what did we make for lunch today?
Man, this is my sort of go-to Vietnamese, signature Vietnamese street food. It's called cơm tấm. That means usually made with broken rice. But I actually use jasmine rice because I don't have broken rice today. But the concept of it is still the same. It's grilled meat, vegetables, super spicy fish sauce, and a fried egg on top.
Love spicy.
And this comes in different variations, right? Like,
Smells so good.
Yeah.
I've been hungry for the past 45 minutes while you're making it.
yeah, right. And I think my main thing about this is that I think as we talk more about food, hence this podcast, is that people think there's this one idea of how things should exist. And I swear to God, like Jesus H. Christ, right? That there's going to be people looking at this like, that's not Vietnamese. That's not how my mom makes it. That's not what I had in Vietnam because I've been there 4 times in 20 years. Like, or the memory of it, right? It's just that, this is the way my family does it. This is the way I want to do it today. And I just want to be very clear. It's delicious.
Yeah, it's like really strict definitions of authenticity. It's like,
right? Or identity.
Yeah, or identity. Yeah.
Right. So, and then what about you, Matt?
All right, I made my favorite thing to make, which is lentil soup.
Awesome.
So lentil soup, I'll get into it more, but lentil soup is really important to me, to my family, and so this is sort of the thing that I make every week for lunch every week. It's a combination of lentils, crushed tomatoes, sweet potato, onions, a bunch of other stuff, and then a little bit of spice. So
Super healthy and delicious.
Super healthy, thankfully pretty affordable.
I think they said the gladiators or the Romans ate lentils, right?
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Well, it's what I eat every week, and it's sort of the most meaningful dish to me, so I wanted to eat it. Let's dig in.
Right on. I love how thick your stew is. Like,
thank you. I like the stewy texture. I don't like it too super watery. I feel like a lot of lentil soup is like really watery.
Depends on my mood. If I want watery soup, then I'll eat soup, right?
Yeah.
If I wanted a stew, I want it thick, right?
Right.
Oh, I see that you got the lemongrass in there,
Yep.
right? That's your bowl.
No, thank you.
I'm sorry, I'm not going to wait. It's really good.
No, dig in.
Why did you bring this dish today?
Yeah, so taking a step back for a second, like food is really meaningful to me and my family. So for me personally, and lentil soup really like sort of captures this. Food is really important for my mental health. I struggle with anxiety and generalized anxiety disorder, and cooking and food really grounds me in a way that sort of can preempt a lot of like spiraling and sort of a lot of the anxiety creeping into my daily life in ways that feel unmanageable. And so like cooking on a daily basis, and I mentioned earlier that I make lentil soup every week. It's like having that predictability of making the same thing every week like creates a sort of rhythm and like grounding for me that I think is really helpful for me personally. And then like lentil soup specifically is really meaningful for me because, growing up, we had this restaurant that my dad and I would go to in Seattle. I grew up in Seattle. My parents are, both accountants. We like grew up in basically downtown Seattle, and we'd go to this Greek restaurant that we were close with the owner, and he had this lentil soup recipe that my dad and I were obsessed with and would just have all the time. And so I associate lentil soup with my childhood and growing up. And so when, I got older and I started getting into cooking and learning how to cook and, really becoming passionate about it, I went to Greece and learned how to make a lot of the stuff that I, ate growing up and learned how to make lentil soup. And so when I came back, I would make it for myself. And then I also taught my dad how to make it. So now he and I both make lentil soup every week.
That's awesome.
And it's sort of it's a symbol of love. Honestly, it's a symbol of like family and belonging in a way that I think is unique to sort of food and meals, of being able to like create bonds between family members, and to be able to sort of bring the past to the present, so to speak.
It's interesting, by the simple act, you expanded your community, right? Because you can have your own family traditions, you can have your own identity, but the fact that you went to this Greek restaurant where they had lentil soup, you made their identity your identity.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And then you brought that with you on this journey of life, of who I am, who I exist, who I identify as, right? And then you coming over to my house to bring me lentil soup, you're like, hey,
Right.
I'm vulnerable. This is a Greek, inspired dish. This is what I learned. I'm vulnerable. This gives me peace. I want to share this with you. Man, that's nourishing in like so many different ways. Right?
Yeah, and I think it's also, it's a window into something that's honestly like authentic and vulnerable for me, that I think, food is a uniquely vulnerable thing. When we taste things and when we smell things, it is like both vulnerable and intimate in a way that like I think can build bonds in ways that other things can't. And like, I made this today and I asked you if there's anything you'd want to add to it. I ended up, adding lemongrass to it. And like, I think that, kind of what we were talking to earlier, food can also like combine, things that are important to each of us in a way that is really powerful, because then you can taste it, you can smell it, that in ways that aren't just, talking about our backgrounds. It's like actually putting it into the dish.
It's interesting. There was a time and place where art, oil paint on canvas was a safe medium to express yourself and not be hung, crucified. Same thing with books, right? There was a time and place you could express your ideas and put it in something and not be crucified and not be vilified, whatever your ideas were. And same with music, right? And that's an ongoing battle. But with music, since the beginning of time, but there's always, it's always challenged, where you can express. That's a safe place for you to express your ideas. And I think music and poetry kind of share that sort of safe space. But I think what you're kind of pointing to is this new revelation of like food is the new safe space.
Food is a creative outlet for people in a way that is, I think, very grounding in the real world, because those other forms of creativity are also becoming more and more online.
Yeah, like you could do peanut butter hamburgers.
But like fundamentally, like food is an in-person real thing, and I think like there's something fundamentally human about that that is I'm sort of obsessed with. But I think that's part of the reason why we are like good friends, is like we both are passionate about that.
100%. Right. You know what I really hate about going back to the idea of like identity and food, right? The thing that really drives me crazy about soup is that, or the perception of soup is that it needs to be one way or another.
Yeah.
Right. And I like that there's adding variations to it. This lemongrass and this lentil soup reminds me of a thread that I saw earlier this week where they said, just because I want to keep American tradition the way it is doesn't mean I'm racist. And what's interesting is that the comments went on fire. I commented as well. But I think that when there's an attempt to preserve what you feel comfortable with, whether it's a symbol, a tradition, a country, whatever, I think that erodes and it erases other people's identity in relation to that.
Yeah.
Right? Because a symbol can mean a lot of different things. If you're trying to just keep one aspect of it, of course, yes, you're being racist.
Right.
Right. You're excluding people. You're saying this has one identity when it's this complex thing.
You're like, this is the normal. You have to adhere to the normal. And if you don't adhere to the normal, like that's bad.
Yeah.
Like,
but who defines normal?
Exactly. And so like the power comes from the normalcy and like defining what the normalcy is. And I think the beautiful thing about food is that it can, if you really pay attention, like deconstruct what those sort of normalcies are. Like lentil soup, take it for example. Like I learned how to make this on a trip to Greece. Yeah. And I learned on a little island that was very close to Turkey. Yeah. And so the way that I learned how to make it was actually an infusion of like Greek traditions, Italian traditions, Turkish traditions. It was like sort of blending all of these traditions together through ingredients, through technique.
100%.
And I think if you pay attention to how food is made, to what ingredients you put into it, it's like it can tell a much more complex story than just this or that, or this is authentic or that's inauthentic. It's a lot more complicated than that.
Yeah, ingredients don't have borders.
Yeah, exactly.
So stop claiming ingredients.
Yeah.
Britain. Curry's not yours, Britain.
All right. I want to try your food because I have this every week. So I'm super excited for this.
Wait. Premeditate. Take your sauce. Pour it. Douse it. If you like a lot of heat, a lot of sauce.
Yep. Always love heat.
And I love you, Matt, but I'm a chef, and there's a very particular way to eat stuff.
No. I defer to you.
You know, it's kind of like having my best reference is like sushi. Like people just dive in. They're like, well, this is how I enjoy sushi. Don't go to a fucking restaurant.
Yeah.
If you want to enjoy sushi by putting your rice first in the fucking show you, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Go fish down first.
Yep.
Right? Like, eat it how it's intended to be, and then you can criticize whatever.
Yep.
But don't eat the way, not to saying that you're suggesting that.
Yeah.
I just go overboard as a chef.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Shall we?
Yes.
And you know, people think Asian cultures oversimplifying, stereotyping of anything that Asian cultures eat with chopsticks. But this dish is, even on the streets of Vietnam, it's eaten with a knife and a fork. Mm-hmm. That's why it's on a plate. Even in the streets of Vietnam, it's served on a plate, right? And there are things that we need to allow to happen, right, with food and food history, mainly because things evolve. I think one of the things is that people had this claim to like Korean fried chicken and Vietnamese fried chicken, and how closely tied to it being, you know, identified as Korean and in a Korean dish or a Vietnamese dish, and come to find out it's from Black U.S. soldiers, right?
Yep.
That's a good pork chop. You know, I was joking about this earlier, but it's not a joke. But you know, when something's really good, you know what you do? You don't close your mouth, you smack. That's some hood stuff right there. And, you know, that's a thing in my family too. It's like we're fairly country. As a Vietnamese standard, we're from the far south. We're islanders. But when my aunties would see children eating, opposed to reacting to their eating with their mouths, but if they're masticating and they're really enjoying it, like it's a form of endearment. It's no different from slurping noodles when you're eating ramen in Japan, right? It shows as a form of enjoyment,
right?
And scientifically proven that it eats better that way as well too, right? Because you're getting some of the broth with the noodle, you're not letting it drip down.
Yep.
I think the whole sort of rating system of food and how food is rated, whether it's good or not, good restaurant or not, I really think food is like music. Whoever you're playing in front of, whoever's listening to it, you have to know what they're feeling at the moment. You know, current climate, time, place, time in their life. Same thing with people. Like, are you cooking ingredients? Are you cooking flavor notes that their body's craving that moment, that year, that month, that day, that hour, right? And I think that's the other thing too. Palates change, right? Across different generations. I think as you get older, you get more attuned to bitter. Mm-hmm. Sounds like life lessons, doesn't it?
We're more okay with bitter as we get older. Mm-hmm. Nah.
Palate-wise, yeah, we learn to appreciate bitter more. Like things like in coffee. What's another good example? Wine, right? Alcohol. We become more tolerable of bitter. We learn how to mute bitter to hyper-focus on other things that it offers.
Right.
I think wine's a great example, right? It's first-time wine drinker, if you never really consumed alcohol before, it can be very heavy on the nose in terms of like alcohol. But if you get past that, you mute the alcohol, there's other things to enjoy. Same thing with coffee, right?
Yep.
I think all coffee has some element of bitter to it, or some note of being roasted or fire roasted. But if you get past that, there's other things you can enjoy.
Yeah. It's interesting because I feel like, you know, growing up, I didn't have a super sort of wide range of flavors or things that I ate at home. But as I got older, as I was trying new things or things that I didn't, you know, my parents didn't make at home or, you know, we wouldn't have on a weekly basis, I feel like I realized how overstimulating a lot of like our food is, which is like overly salty, overly sugary, like sort of punch us in the face with flavor in a way that like when there's, when you slow down and like, I feel like these dishes are good examples of it, of like, there's like the layers of flavor. I think like you sort of mature into appreciating those things, or even just noticing them in the first place, right? Like to your point about wine, like you don't notice it until, you have a little bit of it, or, acquired taste, so to speak.
I'll tell you one thing, like people have always approached me because I cook Vietnamese food or even Italian food, and they love it so much because it's so exotic to them. Like, that's amazing. So exotic. Wow. Truffles, right? Or wow, lemongrass fish, so exotic.
Yeah.
Right? And it always blows my mind because I grew up in Oakland, and in my household, we didn't celebrate Christmas. We didn't celebrate Thanksgiving. It was just more of rest time off from work for my very blue-collar, hardworking refugee immigrant parents, right? Sister included. And the interesting thing is I never saw these food or these flavors as exotic. And it's funny that you mentioned that, very basic American food, not a lot of variety. I am enamored over American foods, like American frozen foods, and like Jell-O, making it into a salad. Like I remember my wife telling me about ambrosia salad. I'm like, what the fuck is that?
You're like, what is that?
Growing up, I thought my cousin's family, they're more Americanized Vietnamese than we are, than we were, or we are. I don't know what the term is nowadays in 2026, but they would do more meal ready to eat frozen microwave treats. I thought that was luxury. Right? I'm like, you're having frozen turkey with cranberry sauce, and it came with a Capri Sun, like, right?
Right.
So I was always enamored with those things. Like green bean casserole is my jam. We had the other day, Jean and her girlfriend was connecting over like recipes, and they were doing a pretzel salad with Jell-O and cream cheese. I'm like, what?
That's Midwest as hell. That's funny.
So I think it depends on the lens. Like,
Yeah.
I think there's a whole movement in Japan and China where they cook on social media. They're cooking American food, and they're excited about it, right? Because it's the polar opposite of what they experience. It's just like boiled chicken breast and green beans. It's the attempt to be more American, because the American identity internationally is something young people, Gen Zers, Gen Alphas, are having a interest and insight for. Same thing with like TikTok, Chinese influencers and TikTok standing in front of Costco and pretending that they are at American Costco. But yeah, it's really interesting what we do with food, especially in a day and age of social media.
Yeah.
The reason why I did this dish today, it's called yukam, or rice plate, is I think this is one of those dishes, kind of like very similar to your dishes, where there was a moment in time where I could feel cultural bridges through the things that I ate. Right? And this is me coming from very, interwoven culturally place like Oakland, where all the kids of my generation, no matter what color you were, right, spoke the same slang, right? And then if we did enjoy each other's food, it's because it was delicious, not because it's the only one in my community, right? So if you went to a taco truck, you see all different peoples of different colors and cultures and whatnot. And I try to dig back and see what I enjoyed. And especially for guests who aren't Vietnamese, I try to be very intentional in a sense where where's a cultural bridge where I could connect with them, have them appreciate and understand.
So like appreciate like how sort of your lived experience, even if they don't share that exactly.
I'm not trying to get you to appreciate it, but it's just I'm showing my appreciation for you being my home, right? It's kind of like the opposite. And I think this rice plate is one of those things where there's not many Asian Vietnamese dishes where you don't eat with a chopstick, but this is one of those where it's like, it's a fairly newer street food type of dish found in Saigon or Ho Chi Minh, whichever, city term you want to use to call that place or that region. But, having rice, grilled meats, vegetables, like that's such a universal element for me for across many different cultures. And then given that too, like within here is like, there's ingredients that are reflective of my identity. Like it's hard to be in my household and not have fish sauce. And then I think the other element of it is like the fire cooking element of it, like the grilled pork chop. I didn't grill them today, but I was intended to. It rained, so you got to pivot. But I think all those in all, it's like, and I think that's the intention of cooking. I think people are too kind of like self-centered at the moment, especially with chefs where they're like, this is what I want to cook and it's delicious. But I think, I come from a more matriarchal space where, I try to think about who I'm cooking for and being intentional in serving them. And then I think that's how our stories are exchanged, because as you enjoy something, as you've done with your lentil soup dish, you enjoyed something from somebody else and it inspired you in ways that is lifelong journey with you.
Yep.
Right. And that identity of an ingredient or a taste overextends what it does to you in your bowl in your mouth. It comes with you in your mental health journey. I hope to do the same thing with this dish, where when you eat this, and we're homies already, but like, it's just the thought of that, our dishes and identity are fluid as fuck. And it's okay to overextend it.
Yep.
Right. And I think that's what we're doing here today.
Yep. For sure.
Right. Just do it one time with me. Gum. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
There we go.
So all we need to do is to make you officially Vietnamese or be honorary Vietnamese is, I need you to buy a Nissan 350Z. Right. And then
Great. I don't have a car, so that
there
will
you
be
go.
my first car. There we go.
Nissan 350Z. and I could say these jokes because I'm Vietnamese, right? And then we're going to go get dragon tattoos. Right?
Okay.
The type that spiral around your left forearm.
Mm-hmm. That's really going to wear well when you're not
Right.
there.
And then I think the balance of Vietnamese, I think, stereotypically is that I need you in all black Hugo Boss outfit, a buff shirt, and then slacks, and then Kenneth Cole, they're not wingtips, but Kenneth Cole dress shoes.
Okay.
Right.
So once we're done eating, we're going to go shopping. I'm going to get a tattoo. That's what you're saying.
Yes.
Okay.
It's Fast and Furious 15. Matt, I think one of the most beautiful things I've ever experienced as a chef, especially in restaurant spaces, and mind you, restaurant spaces that I worked in, it wasn't just fine dining, but a lot of it was, hardworking, fast-paced diner food, which is also beautiful as well. But I think the moments where we're able to have family meal with people, I didn't just cook for people. People didn't just cook for me, but it's the first time in my life where I would intersect people, different walks of life, who have different politics, different visions, different wealth statuses from myself. Outside the restaurant space, I couldn't afford that opportunity. I just hung out people from my neighborhood. So I think having that in practice, inviting you over to eat, having this sort of family meal sort of vibe, like, I don't know where else I can find that. Have you experienced anything like that?
Well, no, I mean, I feel a lot of the same way, not even, not in the restaurant field, but like, more on the social impact side of the food world, that, there are not very many parts of our lives where you can bring the complexity of your humanity to it and sort of see humanity in other people in the same way that you can when you sit down and eat with someone. And so not being in the restaurant space at all, I see it, being able to sit down and having a family meal is really about those relationships and like the complexity that you bring to those relationships.
Right.
And that sort of food creates that space for that, and bridging our experiences with folks who might not have those same experiences. There aren't that many ways to do that in our daily lives.
So maybe it's not the meal itself, maybe it's the act of cooking, right? Where if it's the act of cooking and I cook this meal for you, and obviously, like, I wouldn't try to hurt you, but the act of cooking suggests that you can trust me, my hands are clean.
Yeah.
I could potentially hurt you, give you dirty food. Dude, this reminds me of like Michael Jordan and the Utah Jazz game where he got food poisoning. Refocusing, but I think maybe it's the act of cooking that really instills trust in whoever you invite to the table. I cooked you a meal, come in, let me take care of you. And I think that's where, when people's guards are down, conversations flow a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's breaking bread with people. It's like, I think that's like a cliche for a reason, right? Like for thousands of years, like food has been the way that we convene. I think because of that, like fundamental humanity of like you are putting yourself out there both when you cook something for someone and when you eat something that someone cooks for you.
Yeah.
And it's like that relationship and that trust that's being built there is really powerful.
You know, it's really interesting, and I think we've talked about this story, but like I think I've had family meals in many different ways now that I think more about it, just beyond the restaurant space. I mean, I was a volunteer teacher in San Quentin for a rehabilitation and training program for incarcerated men. And I think in essence, I would go in Mondays. I would go in every Monday, leave my house at 5, 6 in the morning, be there by like 8 o'clock, and to aim towards working with a class of men, all different types of backgrounds, to aim to do a lunch service to serve ourselves by like noon. And I think that in its own was a family meal. But I tell you something, man, like I think like I said before, like the act of cooking was the thing that really got everyone to kind of let their guard down in a penitentiary, right? Mm-hmm. Let their guard down in a penitentiary and cook together, have fun and smile and taste. So now that I'm thinking about it more, like family meals can be more than just what I experience in a restaurant, right?
For sure.